Hello again. All right, so this is like video 4 and it's about week 5 of the Intro to Emergency Management course that we're working through at Ohio Christian University. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the principal hazards that we encounter within the United States. So really, sort of on a large sort of umbrella, we can think of it as naturally occurring disasters and what's referred to as technological disasters. The natural disasters are anything that just sort of originate in nature. So that would be meteorological, hydrological, or geophysical. So having to do with up top, the water, or land. And then secondly, you have technological hazards, and these are generally human controlled, right? So things where humans touch on something and it it causes some type of event, like a hazard, excuse me, like hazardous materials, explosives, some flammable materials, that sort of things. So if you think about it like that, sometimes it's easier to categorize. So the first, meteorological, right? These are storms, high winds, having to do basically with the weather. Think about it like that. So things that are happening above us. So these are our tornadoes, these are our hurricane events, these are our snowstorms, our straight line wind storms, that sort of thing. The effects of these are oftentimes devastating, right? The ice storm that hits us can cut out electric. It makes roads impassable, that sort of thing. So, yeah, even with natural disasters, you have a ripple effect out from that can cause additional problems. My in-laws, a couple years ago, the snowstorm hit Atlanta, that Atlanta area, and my in-laws were actually on the bypass around. You may remember that, and they were stuck there for almost an entire day. So I think like 18 or 19 hours. They were stuck on that road. They couldn't move their car. They couldn't get out, and so they were just stuck there. Luckily they had just filled up with gas, and they had some snacks and stuff like that. So it wasn't totally unbearable for them. But that was just a snow event, and it wasn't as if it's the first time we've ever had snow. But so even after hundreds, thousands of years, we still continue to combat the effects of snow or other natural disasters. So speaking just for natural disasters, we have the first one I said was the meteorological. That could be wildfires, floods, like I'd mentioned, storm surges. After a storm. All of those things are potentially, here we are, September 27th. It's been a couple weeks now, and the men and women are, after Hurricane Florence that had struck the Carolinas, they are still dealing with flood. That ripple effect of that hurricane, they're still dealing with today. So in addition to meteorological, you have geophysical. These are threats from volcanoes, things that having to do with within the ground. Like everything else, earthquakes, the ripple effect of those goes out and out and out, right? A tsunami that strikes, struck a number of years ago over into Southeast Asia, and the effects were felt all across that region. That started because of an earthquake. So, interesting quote: "Earthquakes don't kill people, but buildings kill people." I was in Haiti following the earthquake a handful of years ago, and the majority of the injuries that I observed had to do with falling materials that come off. 12-inch cinder blocks were some of the biggest killers in that country. Also technological. So I mentioned it at the beginnings, but these are like hazmat materials, hazmat shipments for the local emergency manager. This is going to be sort of the lion's share of what it is that you're working on, right? The trains, the planes, sometimes ships, cars, trucks that come through your area that are carrying dangerous materials. Interesting. Here's some numbers for you. There are majority of hazmat dumps. 81% of them take place on a highway, and only 15% are in having to do with rail. So, when you're looking where to focus your work, the highways and byways might be a good place to focus. Don't just think about moving hazmat either, right? Wherever you find yourself, wherever you end up hanging your hat, you're going to have, stationary locations that have some pretty terrible stuff, whether it's having to do with the production of something, or, they're storing something because it's the leftovers of something they're creating. You need to have a pretty good grasp of what's there and how to combat it. Because if, God forbid that there's a spill or something's coming or going, you need to know exactly what's there, right? That assessment piece is very important for the local emergency manager. In addition to the sort of the hazmat and all that stuff, you also have to consider, biological hazards, right? Most biological agents that might be used in deliberate terrorist attacks also exist as natural hazards, right? So something just a naturally occurring thing, if it's weaponized, it can be used in either way. Terrorists can spread the disease by contaminating food or water supply, or they can disperse biological agents in an aerosol cloud to cause inhalation exposure. We've seen this multiple times. The instance that I'm thinking of happened in Japan a number of years ago in their subway system, when terrorists decided to release some gas and killed a number of people and injured a lot more people. These things are naturally occurring, but again, when weaponized, it becomes a technological hazard. Why? Because it's interacting with humanity, right? With humans, we're touching it, we're messing with it, we're changing it a little bit, or maybe we're gathering a lot of it up, that sort of thing. So when you're thinking about it, so natural has to do with nature, and technological, well, it doesn't have to do with technology, right? It's not computers and iPhones and stuff like that. It could be, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. When you're thinking of technological, you need to think about anything that sort of bumps into or is sort of changed, affected, or influenced by humans. So if you follow those couple rules, they're easy to keep separated. And again, I just touched on a couple things, right? And there are a number of different natural hazards. There are a ton of different technological hazards. But just for our class and just to sort of begin to understand the concept, this is where you need to begin. So I think we're moving along. And as long as you're paying attention in class and that you are, if you have questions, you're sort of reviewing these videos, you should be in good shape. So thank you.